all over the world. Yeah, sorry, you were saying, let's bring in a professor. You are trying to compare what we are saying today with what was happening in 1978. I was not there, so you can only inform me.
At that time, we had Voice of Kenya, which is where we are now. Television, black and white, used to be available to the public to view from 5 in the evening till 10.
From 5 p.m. to 10?
Yes, black and white.
Wow.
We liked it. That's all we had, by the way. There was nothing else.
And it was black and white?
Yes. And the fact is that that's all we had. The fact is that it had to be announced to the public there's going to be special viewing when President Kenyatta died. So you can tune on your TV and watch it. Because normally you wouldn't switch on your TV in the morning.
Because you knew it was off.
It was off. There was nothing to say. So we did watch it. I remember school children, it was holidays. Everybody watched it. It was a moment of great sadness as well, I must say, and solemnness as well. International attention was paid to that particular funeral because this is somebody who was known internationally for his role in African nationalism. In the rest of Africa and in the Western world. So it was different in that way, smaller TV, black and white, but also I remember the solemnity and the sadness which enveloped the country then. But also I think the hope at that time that we had made the transition and made it peacefully. We established a tradition as a country that we should be proud of, that we are moving from one presidency to another now, the fifth one, and each transition has been peaceful.
And that was during a time when, there used to be a lot of coup d'etats in Africa, and, there used to be a lot of power struggles.
Absolutely. I would say if you look in 78, half of Africa would be under military rule. Yeah. Even a lot of our countries in our neighborhood here, Eastern and Southern Africa. The fact is that Kenya has held together. And Kenyans right to run themselves down and speak about their problems, and we should, but we should also look at the positive side as well. The fact is, as you're saying, at that time, political instability was what defined Africa. Kenya was the exception. We're still an exception, and we hope to continue that way.
This is a case of, focusing more on the hole in the donut instead of focusing on the other parts of the donut.
Exactly.
Engineer Toro, I know back then when the President Kenyatta was being laid to rest around, Parliament buildings, I think you were 25 years back then?
Yeah, I had just left university and I had joined Kenya Railways.
Yeah.
And
it used to be called East African
Railways and Harbors.
Railways and Harbors, yeah.
The only difference now is because Jomo Kenyatta died in office.
Yeah.
Unlike now, where Kibaki or Moi 2 years ago, they have passed when they are already former presidents. So the serenity when Kenyatta died was different from now. Yeah. Because one, people did not believe that Kenyatta would die. So it was a shock.
Sorry, I mean, it's good to explain what is that. That is the toll station. It used to be called the toll station area because I come from those sides. When I was growing up and we used to come to the city, you'd stop there, you pay for entering the city, and you used to pay 10 shillings back then, which was a lot of money.
Yes.
Was it 10 shillings or 1 shilling? No. I mean, I used to see people giving 10 shillings. I can't remember whether they used to get any change for that, but that was a toll station, a concept that is no longer with us, but Parliament is now to bring back that whole concept. Look at those bumps as you were talking about. And of course a zebra crossing, my goodness. Why would you have a zebra crossing on a national highway?
It shouldn't be there, as engineers say.
It should have been there.
It should be there.
Okay, all right, take us back to 1978.
So 78, it was different, and people did not believe that. You remember, maybe you have read, when the then Attorney General, Charles Jonjo, had said that anybody who can even imagine that Kenyatta can die is treason. So nobody would talk about Jomo Kenyatta dying. So when it finally happened, it was a shock.
Yeah.
And because of the way KBC used to work, when it was now being announced, music is the one that came, and then you start wondering, why is KBC playing this music continuously?
Back then it was VOK. Voice of Kenya.
Voice of Kenya, VOK, until it was announced, and people were in shock.
Yeah.
And people stopped working. I remember people just went home. People would not talk to anybody. They just kept quiet.
The whole country was in shock.
The whole country was in shock. What is all the mentioning is the transition, very peaceful, and there was no issue of even the military thinking that they can take over because Kenyatta has died. So that transition, as the professor is saying, has gone on very well with us. There were those few instances where 1971, where there was some rumor that there was attempted coup, then came later 82. But you can see, you can say our
that was 4 years later.
Yeah, our defense forces, they have behaved very well. They have behaved in a very professional way. They have not been greedy to take over power, and they have allowed civilian government to continue. And the institutions that are led by the government and safeguarded are the ones which give satisfaction to the people. So the armed forces being satisfied with the role they are playing, and the president being able to inculcate the value of professionals in the armed forces, would make them content, and they are not greedy for power.
Yeah.
So we have gone that far. We have come this far. And you can see the honor that the defense force is giving our lead president. Very articulate, very committed, with a lot of honor and humility. It means that as their commander-in-chief, they valued his contribution, they valued what he did for them, and how he took care of them, that all of them were satisfied. The other issue is institutions should take care of succession. If succession is done properly within the forces, and there is no witch hunting, seniority takes place, then nobody gets frustrated. You are not a brigadier and somebody comes from captain and becomes your boss. So that seniority is the one that gives job satisfaction, that yes, the person who has been promoted is better than me, or deserves that promotion. So everybody becomes satisfied. So we have come very far from that time. And those who were there when Jomo Kenyatta died, if you compare the funeral service for Jomo Kenyatta and the one that is happening for Mwai Kibaki, they are more or less about the same.
More or less about the same. In terms of
organization, the defense forces taking control of everything, and you find that the respect that was accorded to President Mwai Kibaki by the defense forces is shown by the way they are treating him and this function. So I think Kibaki, as president and commander-in-chief, is something that everybody is proud of. I mean, you see, to us, this is what we would say, Nikama Ndrama, Nikama Vindio, right? Because me and Victor, were you there back then? Of course you were not. You don't.
1978.
1978, were you there?
Only the prof and the engineer were there. That's why they're able to give us a story. Prof, just to ask you, perhaps somebody would argue that, Kenyans should wait for a longer period of time before we start feeling the real effect of President Mwai Kibaki's hand in government, probably in 50 years to come?
I think you're absolutely right, because the impact of his work in economic planning is one that had a long-term perspective. We had Kenya Vision 2030, and he urged us, as soon as economic recovery was underway,
Yes.
Planning Ministry then under Professor Peter Nyang'nyong'o, you've done 3 years of recovery. Give me a perspective of our country for 2030.
Yes.
He always was very forward-looking in economic planning. Right from the beginning, he and Tomboya captained our development plans right after independence. His perspective was always of a united Kenya on a long-term perspective, and you could see our population was going to grow.
Yes.
We needed employment, we needed jobs, industrialization was important, and that's why you see something we haven't talked about a lot, Dongo Kundu, the bypass
in
from
Mombasa.
Bazaras down to the south coast, and a duty-free manufacturing city at Dongo Kundu. All these were part of what was going to absorb into employment our young people. Konza City. And incidentally, let me say, because you talked about this highway, the toll road, the Nairobi toll road,
Yes.
from Machakos town of Tulimuru, which engineer is talking about, it was supposed to link with Thika Superhighway at the same time. The World Bank was supposed to provide us funding for that, for this. At that time, like you're talking about 206, 205.
That was 206.
They dropped the ball. They let us down. On the last minute, Engineer Michael Kamau was PS
for roads.
I remember very well. They said we're not going to do it because the contractor, who was Austrian, Strabag, have been associated with corruption in Russia. What did we have to do with Russia or Austria or Strabag? That is what delayed this construction. They were supposed to meet here where we are now as early as maybe 10, 15 years ago. So that then we have this east-west connection to the north-south.
So whatever we're seeing right now, the double-decker road along Uru Highway is a continuation of Thika Highway?
Yeah, they're supposed to blend so that you're coming from this direction to this direction. You don't have to go downtown and cause congestion.
Right. I mean, it was such you know, a lot of people say that, you know, the decision by the World Bank, you know, was politically motivated because, you know, Strabag was blacklisted, you know, by World Bank, but that was in Russia, as you were saying. But this was a project that was taking place, you know, thousands and thousands of miles away. I mean, so when the World Bank dropped the news that we're not going to fund this project, so how was that a setback, you know, to President Kibaki's plans?
I can comment on that because I was there. That's the time you were having that concept. And, well, correction. By then, Engineer Kamau was not the PS. Engineer Kamau became PS later on, 2008. Now, when the...
Ikiara was the PS? Or who was
there was first of all, there was Ikiara, there was Nani, Mongera, and then Ambassador Muhammad.
Erastus Mongera.
Yeah, so Kamau took over from Ambassador Muhammad.
Oh, that's right.
When Ambassador went to contest. That was 2008. Now, when our engineers, as I said, our engineers started working in 2003. And Kibaki said these are the issues that the engineers should work on. The expressway, it was not, the way it is designed now is not how it was designed. By then it was a concept to be undertaken by the World Bank, the expressway and the southern bypass. The two of them were supposed to be the same. It was not, it was starting from Cabanas, just after airport, there around the airport. It was not extending beyond the airport. Then it was to come and take, traffic was to bypass, to come through southern bypass. And the other one, expressway up to just past the Westlands. Now, when the expression of interest was fruited and Strabag became the winner. Then they were blacklisted as by World Bank. So World Bank said no. So there was that long gap of financing. Now the World Bank said they are not going to finance. And then what happened is quickly we said that southern bypass had to be done, even without the expressway, because now Uhuru Highway was getting very congested. So that's how the Chinese funded the southern bypass. The southern bypass, the way it is not the way we had conceptualized it that time. It was supposed to be. It was not supposed to be dual carriageway.
Oh,
it was not. Even the planning with the World Bank, it was not dual carriageway.
It was a single lane.
It was single lane. Even the expressway, it was just 2 lanes. Not the way it is now. It's expanded now.
It's much bigger than it was.
Much bigger. And the budget then, I can convenience, it was about 2 billion.
2 billion shillings.
Yeah, it was a lot of money.
Back then, of course.
Back then, it was a lot of money.
But you know, factor in inflation and all that. So today would be about 18 billion shillings.
Yeah, you know, with now, as Professor has said, with now the Chinese coming and giving all the money and and the design and whatever, we are not in control.
They are the ones in control.
So if you asked me, the express.
Just a minute, Victor. Do you want to comment about where the entourage is now at this point? Because I can see that is Blue Post.
Yes.
That's where actually that's where the Thika Superhighway ends. From there, this is now. What do you call this, by the way? This is what do you call this? This is Nyeri Highway, or what, I have never understood what you call this. Is this Nyeri Highway now? Because this is next to Del Monte now, right?
Right.
Does it have a name?
This Del Monte. They're doing pretty well. 45 minutes there. 7:45. They've done. Actually, they are just after Thika, slightly after Thika town.
Yeah.
And they're doing pretty well in terms of the speed and what have you. Now look at the Wananchi. People have now come out. Actually, it's like people are now realizing that, oh, there's something happening out here, so they're coming out.
Yeah.
You know, and being a Saturday, that is Blue Post. You're right, where the Thika Superhighway ended or started coming towards this side of Nairobi. They're doing a good job so far. And
actually, it's good to confirm that now
Yes.
they have entered Murang'a County.
Murang'a County.
This is
so to
Murang'a
speak.
County
Right.
now. Because on your left, that is where you're having the expansive Del Monte pineapple farms.
Yeah.
And so I think in the next 10 minutes or so, they should be now at Keno, where I think I'm not very sure whether they are going to go straight or they're going to turn off to that Murang'a town. Do you think, how are they likely to go? Do you have any idea?
No, they have taken care. I cannot say for sure. So the construction being done from Keno to Marwa, depending on the status, they might pass there because it is is faster than Keno Murang'a Road. And then they pass through there in Sagana. Most likely they are going to use that road.
They are going to use that.
Yeah, most likely.
That is under construction.
Yes.
So let's
because
listen.
Because the speed, you know, the Keno Murang'a is a bit narrower.
Yeah.
There is no much maneuverability of the traffic. Because now if they pass through Keno Marwa Road, all they need construction will have to stop.
Yeah.
And then most of the road construction is finished. They only see some small areas where they have not connected. So it will be faster. But you will see on the screen.
I mean, it's going to be confirmed. What you're saying is going to be confirmed.
Yes.
But I think let's now listening to some choir music, as you know, you know, from Othaya, where the choir is on standby with some very nice music. Because I can see we also need to take a cup of tea. Yeah? We've been here for quite some time.
Thank you.
There has been a lot of construction around that town, and there you'd expect probably maybe to see a lot of distractions because you know, today is a market day in Karatina town, and so you'd expect a lot of people in that town. And bearing in mind that the road is still under construction in that area, then it calls for serious rethinking and serious planning. So I think those are some of the issues probably maybe they were consulting about. But as you can see, you know, I was just talking to my colleague here, Victor, and time now is almost coming to 9 o'clock, and bearing in mind that they left Lee Funeral Home at exactly 2 hours ago. That was 7 o'clock, and now they're in Karatina. Karatina is about, is it 80 kilometers?
Thereabout, and compared to, if you look at the speed they're doing, it's relatively a good speed considering that these are convoy, and you don't need to go at a speed of 120 or 110. And the road is still under construction.
What's
you can see the way that house is maneuvering its way, you know. Perhaps, engineer, these ought to have been sorted out well in advance. Some of these speed bumps would have been removed for the sake of this exercise, probably, right? What do you think, engineer?
The house, the Jaguar.
Yeah, that's a Jaguar.
There's a problem going over the bumps.
Right.
It is very low.
The clearance is very low.
But as you can see, the Jaguar's clearance is also very, very low, yeah? Which means it was not meant for this kind of bumps.
You can see now is the one which is having problem maneuvering the bump.
Yeah.
And I think where it back there, it must have hit the bump, and then it was hit underneath.
Undercarriage.
The undercarriage. So that's why they slowed down. No, some of these bumps, they are not standard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the time, we wanted to have all bumps standardized with a proper design. But now it doesn't work because people just go and put bumps. They just call a contractor.
Without a standard.
Without standard, they want to make a bump. So you find some are very, very high. But
engineer, you've talked about this, the standard and the height of a bump. How should it be now that you're here?
Friendly.
Right.
If it is going to be there, it has to be a friendly bump. To slow you, but not to stop you.
To slow you, but not to stop you.
Yeah, because if a bump is going to stop...
Look at that. I mean, it has stopped again, eh?
Yeah, because the bumps those bumps are...
Oh, dear.
And it's sad.
They are very big.
It's very sad.
You see, when a bump is big to make that you are stopping, it is equivalent to a pothole.
Yeah.
You are complaining about a pothole because it is stopping you. A bump which is very high, it stops you. A bump is not supposed to stop, it's supposed to slow you, reduce your speed. And a friendly bump...
That's why it's called a speed bump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To check your speed. A friendly bump, you can even go over it, even when you are driving at 30 kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
But you have to slow.
Yeah.
Now you find in most areas, because they are having rubber strips before they get to the bump.
Yeah.
So even worse, it is even worse. Rubber strip and even those big bumps.
Yeah.
So the Jaguar, which is carrying the body, you can see there is another bump there. You can look at it.
Yeah, look at the way it's...
Oh,
Lord.
It cannot go straight. It has got to maneuver sideways.
I mean, and when you look at the clearing of that Jaguar, plus the fact that you know, it's carrying a heavy casket, and then you have a number of people. I don't know how many people are riding in that Jaguar. Probably maybe two. I don't know. So it tells you that even the load is also expected to be heavy.
Yes.
What more do we know about Victor? I know you're more into vehicles and so much. Would you want to tell us more about that Jaguar?
Well, it's a special one for that matter, and you know, it's for... We only have another one at the Lee Funeral Home, but the fact that this is a military event, the information we have at this one is also under the military. So they had to bring it for the purposes of this event, and it's a turbo supercharge, a stretch Jaguar converted into a hearse. And you see, this one is a 4-seater because we have got a driver, co-driver, and either family members at the back, just two, and that should be it. And then the remaining bit at the back is where the casket is. In terms of engine capacity, probably it's been enhanced because of the extra weight added and the carrying capacity now, but it should be a 2,500 cc's turbo supercharged kind of a vehicle. But then depends with the specification and what you need to do with it. But the normal standard should be 2,500 cc and thereabout.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, because we have the program already here. Maybe I can take people through what is expected. Right. Of course, the procession has left Lee Funeral Home. It did this 7 in the morning exactly, and they took they're on the way to Othaya, and they're almost now approaching Karatina town. So it is expected that, according to the program, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., there will be a funeral mass, and, there will be beginning of mass and blessings of the body. There will be the entry procession. There will be the Bible procession, fast reading, responsorial psalms, up to around 3 p.m. And now between the hours of 3 p.m. to 4 p.m., the interment ceremony is expected to take with the final rites at the graveside. The state funeral procession, military honors, the 19-gun salute that Victor was talking about, the committal prayer, the interment, musical tribute, floral tribute, and President Othaya's home. That is the program. So it is expected to go the program is expected to go all the way up to 4 p.m. And some of the music that you expect to hear that are lined up during the ceremony is, one of them is Great is Thy Faithfulness. It is well with my soul because He lives. Blessed assurance. What a friend we have in Jesus. All to Jesus I surrender. You raise me up, and my hope is built on nothing less. Quite such a beautiful song there. I like it actually. And Bwana Mungu Nashangaa Kabisa. That one is new to me. There's also another one that we all know here. Chakutumaini Sina. Ila damu yake Bwana. That's another song that that is expected to be recited during the burial ceremony. And the Catholic Church, bearing in mind that President Mwai Kibaki was a staunch Catholic member, is going to lead these mass. So that is according to this program. And we've been here, and of course, with Professor Michael Chege, who was President Kenyatta's economic and policy advisor.
President Kibaki'S.
I mean, President Kibaki. Oh Lord, I keep on confusing. Excuse me. President Kibaki is economic and policy advisor, and of course, Joshua Toro, who was the Assistant Minister for Roads, Public Works and Housing under the late President Kibaki's tenure. And we've been having this conversation here, and of course, with my colleague Victor, trying to relive the memories of Mwai Kibaki. And we've touched on a number of things, from infrastructure and the significance of using the road transport, to take him all the way to Othaya. And it is coming out clearly that because President Kibaki was very much interested in infrastructure development, it was proper, to showcase some of his projects that are going to outlive him, definitely. And one of them we were talking about is the Thika superhighway, which was actually his brainchild, and now they're going through the Kenol Marua Highway, which is currently under construction, and that's why you are seeing the Jaguar car is having a little bit of challenge, maneuvering over those bumps. But at this juncture, I would want to bring in engineer Toro and find out, was the Keno Marua Highway, part of President Kibaki's plan?
Yes. It started when he took over. As I said before, his vision was to connect the Northern Grid Road all the way to Nyeri. And to do that, you had to start from Thika Superhighway, then you go to Keno, Marwa, then all the way to Nanyuki. So the conception and the design for the road from Keno to Marwa was done a long time before Kibaki left office in 2013. And it was to be funded by African Development Bank. And it was designed by our engineers by then. But the money from African Development Bank was not forthcoming because they had to fund the superhighway first. And the superhighway had to finish before they tackled the Keno Marwa Road. So the slowness that came about is because the funding was not available then. And also the way President Kibaki worked was very systematic, and the planner is here, Professor as a planner. He knows very well what Kibaki wanted done. And the first 5 years, if people can remember very well, by the time we came to 2007, he was telling Kenyans that we are funding everything 95%. We are borrowing 5%. So it was Kibaki's idea that even infrastructure, we should be able to fund internally. So after the superhighway, the Keno Marwa Road was also to be funded internally. And funding internally also, the concept of borrowing. Whenever Kibaki borrowed money from World Bank or ADB, he knew exactly how that money is going to be paid.
There was a repayment plan in place.
There was a repayment plan. And if that repayment plan was going to be abandoned to Kenyans, he would delay the implementation of certain projects.
Just hold your thoughts there, because we should be coming back now. We just want to cross over to Othaya approved school, where our reporter John Jacob Curie has been camping the whole night, trying to keep an eye on what is happening. And now we want to cross over to him so that he can give us a brief of what is happening now that the casket is less than 1 hour from where they are. Curie, if you can hear me, what the latest do you have from Othaya approved school?
Thank you, O'Brien. We live from the approved school grounds in Othaya, and of course, the members of the public continue to trickle in, as well as dignitaries who are attending this burial ceremony of the late President Mwai Kibaki. We've seen quite a number of them who are making their way inside the tent, of course, as we await the arrival of the body of the late President Mwai Kibaki. And we'll be talking to a few of them, but just to let you know that we are on standby as we await the body of the late president. Now, the celebrant of the mass is the Archbishop of the Archdiocese of Nyeri, Archbishop Anthony Muheria, who is already here, and a pack of senior government officials ahead of the arrival also of President Uhuru Kenyatta and other senior government officials. Probably from what you can see behind me is the entrance of the approved school grounds, obviously, where dignitaries will be coming through as they head towards the tent. The mass is scheduled to begin at around 10, led by Archbishop Anthony Muheria and Catholic priests. But remember, this is also interdenominational, so we've seen quite a number of religious leadership from other denominations, obviously also coming in here to eulogize a man who has been described as a gentle giant and probably a gentleman in politics. We'll be trying to grab a few interviews here and there, obviously, to talk to some of the dignitaries making their way here. But let me just hand it back to you a bit, O'Brien Kimani, so we can be able to grab a few people, then get back to you.
that is inside the dais where, well, the dome where the burial ceremony is expected to take place. You can actually see a few people there who, if my eyes serve me right, I can see like that was the former Speaker of the National Assembly, Kenneth Marende there. But we're back on the road. The Jaguar is still having challenges, maneuvering over those big bumps, bearing in mind that this road is still under construction. We are still with a team of people who served under Kibaki'S government. They continue to give us some soft bits about what they know about this man and how they interacted with him. And we're also in the company of our very own Victor in the studio, who we've been with. And actually, we've been here since 5 in the morning. And so that we ensure that we give you the best coverage. And so far, this is nothing else like it. I mean, it's this world-class coverage here. So we told you that the procession is approaching Karatina town, where now they still head to Maroa, where the road terminates, and then from there they will take a left turn to Othaya, and we expect them to be there in the next 50 or so minutes, depending on how the road is likely to be. But of course, we do not expect to see interruptions along the highway, especially after they make the turn off to Nyeri town, because there's no construction there. The only challenge that we're having here is because the Kenal to Maroa road is under construction, and this is what we were discussing here with Joshua Toro, engineer, who was a former assistant minister in Kibaki'S government. So Joshua, coming back to you, you were giving us an idea of how the whole road was conceptualized, and now that is currently undergoing. Was it the same design that as government you envisioned, or maybe there has been alterations along the process?
Yes, the designs is updated continuously. So the concept and design at that time, by the time it came to be constructed, there was a review, design review. So the original concept, although it was to be dual carriageway, the way it is, but then what changes come because of compensation of land. Sometimes you find there is heavier compensation, and then you redesign to reduce the cost. Sometimes you cannot avoid compensation. Some of it is very expensive. And from that time up to the time it started being constructed, before the valuation was done for compensation, people kept on improving their land and putting buildings. So as years went by, the value of compensation also went up. As I was saying, Kibaki looked at the borrowing, capacity to pay, and the implementation of the project. So the concept from Keno to Marwa, to Nanyuki, then come to Isiolo extending to Masabit, Merile, then going to the border with Ethiopia. All that concept was what Kibaki had, and it was designed and kept to be implemented as funds were available. Because as far as Kibaki was concerned, until the road goes all the way to Moyale, Kenya has not been opened up. Because that area from Isiolo going to Marsabit to Moyale, it was, radrocked. You talk to the people who used to go to Moyale, they use lorries, they spend about even a week traveling.
Because today, the road was in poor condition.
Buses never used to go there, and then there was insecurity because the road was
look
bad.
At this, Professor, engineer, first of all. I think now they have entered Nyeri town. Not Nyeri, but Karatina. Is that Karatina town?
I think this is Karatina.
Yeah, and oh my, look at the number of people there who are out this early morning just to bid their son Kwaheri, yeah? And the outriders are being forced now to slow down, eh? Yeah, these are military outriders. And this is inside the tent where the ceremony will take place. There's a little bit of consultation there because in an event like this, you need people to be at the right place at the right time. So this is Karatina town. Can we confirm that?
Let's see.
Professor, are your eyes strong enough to see?
We have to identify a building so that you say this building is in Karatina.
Because there's a lot of construction around this
Victor,
road.
you're still very young, so I would expect your eyes to be very strong. Can you guide us on these?
But it's growing so fast.
So
that's a challenge.
We have to identify a building.
This must be up towards Karatina town.
Towards, but not Karatina town, eh?
Yes. Again.
Okay.
Yes. This Karatina town.
This is Karatina town, eh?
Karatina town.
So
And
my
from
eyesight
here-
is not failing me.
No. You're right. So
Let's
from
see.
here, I think to Othaya should be around 40 minutes or so.
It's about 40 minutes, eh?
Yeah.
This is, I'm yet to identify anything.
We have to cross the railway. There's a railway crossing.
Yeah, and there's a market. There's a famous market that used to be around there.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to see whether they have crossed that railway line.
I'm yet to see that as well. So I could be wrong.
No, this is not Karatina.
But it is
They have not entered Karatina yet.
not yet Karatina town, eh?
Yeah.
But it is within the vicinities of Karatina town? I don't know. I'm not very conversant with that region, but I mean, I would spot Karatina if I see one, eh? Because of course there is that huge Chaka market that actually was also a brainchild of President Mwai Kibaki.
Exactly.
And you want to talk about that?
It used to be the largest open-air market in sub-Saharan Africa at one point.
Second to Kano, I think.
Second to Kano, one of those. Yes. Open-air market. And a lot of vegetable produce coming to Nairobi used to originate from there. And he was concerned about the promises which had been made to people in Madira. Region.
Well, let me confirm this. There's a colleague of mine, Wahome, he's telling me that this is towards Kibirigwi or Kifirigwi. And this place is called Kangosho Hill. In
exactly.
Karatina town. Eh?
Yeah.
Thank you, Wahome, for the props.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've saved us from the challenges we are going through here.
Mental torture.
He knows the place very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the promises had been made. My very good friend, the late governor of Nyeri, Wahome Gakuru, who worked with me on Vision 2030.
Yeah.
He revived it and was very vigorous in demanding that it be planned and acted on. And I think the president was already aware that there was a need for this. He knows the area very well. So it got built. There are problems operating it, which I've heard about, managing it and all of that. But the fact is that there is now a modern market in Karatina. And the railway is back in operation as well.
And the market is also huge, eh?
Yeah. It's still a huge market as far as produce is concerned, but other products are also coming in as well. Yeah.
I also tell us, I mean, you are a member of the National Economic and Social Council, the NESC, which was very critical during Kibaki'S time in giving the country economic as well as a social direction. Can you tell us something small about that as well?
I think the president, as soon as he came in, was very interested in getting the best policy advice possible in transforming the country towards what he thought would be the country that we all desired at Independence Vision 2030. And he collected the best brains he could in the country, in the region, but also internationally, looking at what had happened in Korea, as well as the newly industrializing Asian countries like Malaysia, which became a model, and Singapore. He brought in some of the best people who had worked with the presidents of those countries in their formative period. And they were extremely useful to us. We brought in experts from Britain as well. Linda Choka, who was Minister for Overseas Development at one point, a very good friend of our country, and was at that time working with one of the multinationals, came to be part of the NESC. A lot of top business people in the country were also part of the NESC, as well as leaders in thinking, economists, as well as professionals, engineers. And who were involved in those, he wanted them to fill in the details. He had the vision, the details of how we get there step by step. And he chaired it, listened, read all the reports very carefully, asked all the tough questions. And this was good way of policy making, because once you have recommendations at that level, with that kind of expertise, you flesh them out before they come to cabinet as papers and as proposals with his support.
Very good.
Yeah.
I'll be coming back to you to find out what happened to NESC and whether now it is still happening. But we want to go to Othaya approved school, where now we want to get an update from John Jacob Curia, who has been camping there since Friday, actually. And so, John Jacob Curia, can you hear me? And what else do you want us to know at this point?
Thanks to Brian. We're still at the Othaya approved school grounds as we continue to await the arrival of the body of the late President Mwai Kibaki. And right now I'm joined by the Maendeleo Wanawake president, who will, tell us about how she remembers President Mwai Kibaki. Thanks very much. Probably start by, if you were to shape or you were to talk about President Mwai Kibaki's legacy, what would you say is his legacy?
I'll start by saying, first of all, kwa niaba ya Maendeleo ya Wanawake, tuko hapa leo kufanya wa final respect to President Kibaki na kwa familia yake. Mwenyezi Mungu awapatie nguvu. What would I say about President Kibaki? He was our third president. All the Kenyan presidents performed very well. Founding father gave us a country. Second president yakaendelea pali alipata kazi. Third president naye akaleta yake. Having started at an early age, of course he was in Kenya from the beginning. He was younger and he was able to do very clear issues, sacrifice. We have been told the history, we don't have to go there. But I think for me today, it is to ask ourselves, are we able as a nation to carry the sacrifice President Kibaki has shown us, that you can sacrifice? I want to say what His Excellency said, and we are echoing that you can be a vice president for 11 years, and then you go down to be a minister of health with grace. That, if we are Christians, is something we need to respect and follow. His hard work. We are not seeing any business here of working smart. There's a lot of working smart in the country, especially to you young people. We are seeing a journey of hard work. We are seeing a journey of sacrifice where you are in Makerere, and instead of going to pick a big job in World Bank, those days of McNamara, those of us who remember that in the 70s, you come home to build your country. Sasa hii nchi tumenjengewa. Rais Kenyatta naye akaja akafanya yake mingi. Tumeona mabarabara tukinja. We keep on saying infrastructure. He doesn't thump his chest, but we don't want to appreciate that. Time will tell. Let me leave that one there. But just say, the highway. I use it on my way home every weekend myself to Yatta. That is my highway. He worked with other people also. He wasn't alone. He had a good team. So whenever you work with a team, tungeomba timu zote zikiingia hata ile serikali itakuja, washike mkono kiongozi, kwa sababu you will deliver because of the team you have. Whether you are the deputy president, you are ministers, you are PSs, itakuwa ni mzuri sana kushika kiongozi na kusaidia to deliver. So President Kibaki, economy, agriculture, education. And for the girl child, the first thing he gave was a free sanitary pads when Charity was Minister of Health, Charity Ngilu. So without saying very many things, because they have been said, life of sacrifice, I think, is what we need to take home. Economy, saving money, taking care of money, investment, and building this country for the future. Kenya is not finishing in 2022. We shall all leave Kenya going on. So for you young people, sacrifice, and for the new leaders, it's an election time. Sacrifice for the nation, not sacrifice for self. So we say fare thee well, President Kibaki. With me as the Katibu wa Chama, Elizabeth Mayeka.
All right.
Asante sana.
Thank you very much, Mama. Asante sana. Let me talk to the celebrant of a mass today, Archbishop Anthony Muheria. Thank you very much, Archbishop, for joining us. How far is the program so far?
Well, thank you very much. We want to welcome all Kenyans today in this final send-off of our beloved President Mwai Kibaki. We want to ask all Kenyans to join us in prayer, wherever you are, whatever faith. Let us pray for this great man who has done us great service.